Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
David Miller always believed that a life shared by two people was built on small gestures. A cup of coffee left on the table before work, quick text messages in the middle of the afternoon, a simple, "I'm home," when walking through the front door. Those details were, to him, the invisible glue holding a marriage together. So when he decided to buy his wife Melissa a birthday gift, he wasn't just looking for something beautiful, he wanted something that could symbolize a fresh start, a reaffirmation of commitment. He spent hours browsing store windows, comparing sparkle, weight, and shape, until he finally chose a sapphire necklace nestled in a velvet blue box. To David, that necklace wasn't just a piece of jewelry, it was the physical embodiment of his hope to rekindle the bond that seemed, little by little, to be growing cold. That morning, as he headed home with the little box hidden in his coat pocket, David felt an almost teenage-like anxiety. He'd already pictured the scene: he'd get home early, prepare a simple dinner, maybe open a bottle of wine, and when Melissa walked through the door, tired from the office, he'd present the gift like someone revealing a secret kept close to his heart. Deep down, he wanted to see her smile the way she used to years ago, when small gestures still delighted her. Driven by that nervous excitement, he picked up his phone and called her. In an upbeat tone, he said, "I got your present, Mel. I think you're really going to love it." On the other end of the line, the reaction wasn't what he expected. Instead of surprise or curiosity, there was silence. Melissa replied coldly, almost mechanically, "David, I'll be working late tonight. Don't wait up." It was only a few words, but they hit him like a slammed door in the face. Just 30 minutes earlier, she'd learned he had something special for her. 30 minutes later, an unexpected obligation pulled her away from home. Coincidence? David had always been a logical, technical man, trained to spot system failures. And right then, his gut told him there was a bug running, a flaw disguised as an excuse. He put the phone away without pressing further, but his mind wouldn't stop racing. Working late had become a recurring phrase over the past few weeks. It wasn't just the long hours, it was the coldness in her voice. Melissa no longer seemed eager to come home, nor did she call to check if he'd eaten dinner yet. The distance between them showed in subtle ways: the new perfume she started wearing only on meeting days, the makeup she applied early in the morning even when she had no important appointments, and her phone constantly turned face down on the table. All of it, which once seemed like vanity or routine, now sounded like pieces of an uncomfortable puzzle. David wasn't the type to sit on doubts and wait. His impulsive nature couldn't accept waiting days, weeks, or months to gather evidence and confirm suspicions. He operated like he did during emergency IT calls at clinics and hospitals: if something failed, he needed to identify and fix it immediately. That was his logic applied to everything, even matters of the heart. So, without much planning, he put his coat back on, slipped the little box into his pocket, and grabbed his car keys. There was no anger in the gesture, only quiet determination. If Melissa said she was working, he wanted to see for himself. He wasn't looking for a fight, nor was he willing to swallow excuses. He wanted the truth, plain and simple. As he drove through the streets of Columbus, the jewelry box seemed heavier than it actually was. He remembered the saleswoman's look when he said it was a gift for his wife. "She'll love it," the clerk had assured him. Now he wondered whether he'd really give it to Melissa or if the necklace would become a symbol of something else entirely. His destination was straightforward: the hotel where, according to Melissa, the company's marketing conference was being held. A corporate event full of panels and meetings would perfectly justify her "working late" excuse. But his intuition told him the conference might have a different kind of agenda. The hotel parking lot was full, packed with executives' cars and company vans emblazoned with colorful logos. David parked and walked through the lobby. The space was elegant, with thick carpeting, golden chandeliers, and people moving about with folders and name tags hanging from their necks. Right away, he noticed Melissa wasn't among the groups discussing projects near the bar. As he approached the mezzanine, he leaned discreetly against the railing and waited a few minutes, as if he were just another visitor expecting someone. That's when the scene unfolded before him. Melissa appeared in the lobby, but she wasn't alone. She was walking beside Grant Whitmore, her boss, a man David had seen at previous events, firm voice, well-tailored suit, the kind of presence that drew attention anywhere. What bothered David most wasn't Grant's presence, but the way Melissa laughed at something he said. It was an intimate, unrestrained laugh, completely unlike the cold tone she'd used on the phone just minutes earlier. They crossed the lobby unhurriedly, as if no one else existed, and headed straight for the elevators. David watched them step inside and, without hesitation, took the next elevator and pressed the same floor button. The hallway was quiet, muffled by carpet and soft lighting. David followed the sound of hushed laughter to the end of the corridor and saw them standing in front of room 1017. Melissa was rummaging through her purse, probably looking for her key card, while Grant made a comment that drew another muffled laugh from her. In that instant, David didn't need anything more. There were no reports, spreadsheets, or conferences. Her "working late" had turned into a different kind of appointment. He didn't take photos, didn't call anyone, didn't collect proof. He tucked his phone into his pocket and took a deep breath. Then, with steady steps, he approached, and just before the door closed, he reached out and knocked. Melissa spun around immediately, eyes wide, her face losing color within seconds. Grant froze, unsure how to react. David held up the blue box and, in a calm voice, said, "Happy early birthday, Mel. I bought this half an hour ago. You said you'd be working late, looks like your shift's already started." Melissa stood frozen in front of the hotel room door, as if caught mid-contradiction. Her face, lit just moments before by a light laugh, was now pale, unable to mask her shock. Grant, meanwhile, tried to regain his executive composure, but David's sudden appearance shattered any pretense of authority. The corridor, silent and luxurious, felt like the perfect stage for the unfolding scene. David, still holding the blue box between his fingers, watched them both with calculated calm. He didn't shout or gesture wildly. His weapon was irony. "Funny, Melissa," he said, low but firm. "I was planning to surprise you with this gift tonight, but I guess you beat me to it and scheduled another celebration. I just want to know, will you toast with wine or champagne?" Melissa stepped forward, trying to take control of the narrative. "David, wait, it's not what you think. Grant and I were just discussing an important project. The conference requires us to stay available late, Anne." "Late, in a hotel room?" David interrupted, raising an eyebrow. "Interesting approach to brainstorming. I imagine the agenda includes pillows and ambient lighting." With every sentence, Melissa shrank further. Grant cleared his throat, attempting to assert authority. "Mr. Miller, there's no need to turn this into a spectacle. We can talk calmly, like adults." David turned to him with a half-smile. "Like adults? Sure. Then explain how you usually mentor your team. Is this part of the company handbook, or is it an advanced training session exclusive to Melissa?" Embarrassment rippled outward. Guests passing through the hallway slowed their pace, pretending not to listen but eyes fixed on the scene. Humiliation didn't need an audience, but one was forming naturally anyway. Melissa tried to cut in. "David, please, let's go somewhere else. I can explain everything." "Explain what?" he shot back. "Why you hung up so quickly this morning? Why you always flip your phone face down when you get home? Or why you never wear that new perfume around me? Which version would you like to rehearse first?" Melissa brought a hand to her forehead, searching for words. Grant, realizing he couldn't control the situation, made a move to step away. But just then, the elevator dinged, and a new figure appeared, an elegant woman in a dark dress, holding an envelope. Her eyes scanned the hallway until they landed on Grant. "Grant, you left your wallet at the front desk," she said, walking toward them. I texted you and you, her sentence died unfinished. She stopped a few feet away, her gaze shifting between her husband and Melissa. The silence that followed weighed more than any accusation. David didn't miss the opportunity. Ah, perfect. The business meeting now has a special guest. I'm guessing this part of the project wasn't on the agenda, was it, Grant? Grant's wife looked confused, but her expression mixed disgust and disappointment. So this is how you fill your conference hours, she said sharply. Congratulations, Grant. I always knew your ambition crossed lines, but I didn't expect it to be this pathetic. Melissa swallowed hard, trying to regain some control. This isn't what it looks like. We're all jumping to conclusions. David gave a dry laugh. You're right, Melissa. I really did jump to conclusions. I believed we still had a marriage. That there was still respect. But it seems all that's left is a poorly rehearsed performance. He opened the box and revealed the necklace, glinting under the hallway's soft light. Look, I bought this for you, a symbol of our anniversary, our history. But honestly, maybe this gift belongs more in the jewelry store display than around the neck of someone who's already swapped vows without even taking off the original ring. The necklace sparkled like a cruel mirror. Melissa tried to move closer, tears beginning to form. David, please listen. I made a mistake, but we can talk. You don't understand the pressure, how much I... Pressure? He cut her off again, laughing bitterly. Pressure is supporting a home, maintaining a marriage, believing every flimsy excuse. What you're feeling is just desire, the desire for more than you promised. And look, you got less than you imagined. Because now all this, he gestured to her, Grant, and Grant's wife, has collapsed in a matter of minutes. Grant's wife dropped the wallet forcefully to the floor. She looked at her husband and said simply, "We're done, Grant. And if the company finds out about this, your career is finished too." David took a deep breath, returned the necklace to his pocket, and stepped back. You know what? I won't yell, beg, or cry. I'll just let you two explain yourselves, to the people who truly matter. Grant, to your wife. Melissa, to the mirror. The silence that followed was tomb-like. Melissa, barely holding back sobs, tried to reach him. David, wait, don't leave like this. We've had years together. He turned his back and walked toward the elevator. Yes, Melissa. Years that came down to a few minutes in a hotel hallway. Funny how time works, it takes decades to build trust and seconds to destroy it. The elevator doors opened, and he stepped inside without looking back. The scene he left behind was one of silent chaos, Melissa curled in on herself, Grant speechless, and his wife standing tall, already dialing someone on her phone. No more shouting was needed, the tension was all in the image of masks falling away. When he reached the lobby, David felt his breathing grow heavy. His heart pounded, not from doubt or fear, but from a strange mix of emptiness and peace, the kind that comes from seeing raw, unfiltered truth. Yes, it hurt, but it was a pain already pointing toward freedom. In that moment, with the blue box still in his pocket, he realized he wouldn't deliver that gift. The necklace had another destiny. And from that hallway onward, life would take a path neither Melissa, Grant, nor anyone else could control. David stepped out of the elevator as if surfacing from a dive that had lasted too long. The lobby air felt cleaner than the 10th floor hallway, yet it still carried a bitter taste. Each footstep echoed across the marble floors, and he felt like he was living a scene someone might easily mistake for a movie. Except there was no script here, just the raw ache of betrayal. He crossed the lobby, reached the parking lot, got into his car, leaned on the steering wheel, and took a deep breath. This wasn't just a confirmed suspicion, it was an entire chapter of his life crumbling before his eyes. Yet instead of breaking down, David felt fury give way to strange clarity. Everything suddenly made sense, the cold replies, the unexplained overtime, the endless meetings. It all fit together, and there was no room left for illusions. All that remained was deciding how to respond. That night, he didn't go home. He checked into a small hotel near downtown. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, letting the images replay in his mind, Melissa laughing with Grant, the necklace in his hand, Grant's wife appearing like an unexpected judge of that farce. With each replay, pain mingled with a sharp dose of sarcasm. Working late, he thought. Yeah, really hard work. The next morning, Melissa called dozens of times. David answered only once. Her voice trembled, nearly pleading. David, please, we need to talk. You caught me off guard. I made a mistake, but it's not as simple as it seems. I still love you. He laughed, but not with joy. You still love me? Interesting. You have a peculiar way of showing it, don't you? Don't say that, she begged. It wasn't planned. It just happened. I was confused, lonely. Lonely? David interrupted, voice firm. So now the solution to loneliness is your boss. And here I spent months thinking your coldness was just exhaustion. You had energy, all right, just not for me. She fell silent, perhaps swallowing tears. I don't want to lose you. We can try therapy. We can rebuild this. David gripped the phone tightly, as if he could crush the lie along with it. Melissa, therapy doesn't fix character. I don't need a reconciliation manual, I need respect. And you threw that away in a hotel hallway. You know the cruelest part? You made me feel like an idiot. Made me believe I was paranoid. But in the end, I was right. I was always right. He hung up without waiting for a reply. Within hours, the story had spread through the company. Hurt, Grant's wife had confided in close colleagues, and soon the company's ethics committee received a formal complaint. Hallway whispers and sideways glances now revolved entirely around the incident. Melissa, once seen as a promising professional, now carried the weight of gossip on her shoulders. And Grant, accustomed to automatic respect, began facing meetings with directors who looked at him like just another man felled by his own arrogance. David watched it all from a distance, with no need to interfere. Revenge was unfolding on its own, like a row of dominoes he'd only needed to nudge at the start. That evening, Melissa showed up at his house, the same house that now felt foreign to him. She found him sitting in the living room, staring at the blue box on the coffee table. David, she began, voice choked. I came because I don't want to give up on us. I know I messed up, but I'm still your wife. We still have a history. Let's not throw it all away. He studied her in silence for a few seconds. Then he opened the box and lifted the necklace. It's funny how things change value, isn't it, Melissa? Yesterday, this was a symbol of our love. Today, it's just an expensive piece of jewelry with no owner. And you know what's worse? I still think it's beautiful. I just can't picture you wearing it anymore. She tried to move closer, tears streaming down her cheeks. David, I know I was weak. Routine pulled me away from you. I felt alone, and when Grant got close, I let myself go with it. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. Love, he repeated, almost laughing. Love is staying together when it's hard. Love is remembering there's someone at home waiting for you before making up excuses. Love is respect. If what you call love is what I saw in that hotel hallway, then sorry, Melissa, but I'd rather live without that kind of love. She dropped to her knees in desperation. I can change. Give me another chance. David took a deep breath. For a moment, he nearly gave in to the sight of her there, vulnerable. But then the memory returned, her unrestrained laugh in the lobby, the knowing glance with Grant, the expensive perfume. He shook his head. Do you know the difference between you and me, Melissa? I don't need a second chance to be loyal. I already was, from day one. And you turned loyalty into a disposable option. So no. There's no second chance for something that should have been non-negotiable. She broke down sobbing. He stood up, picked up the necklace box, and slipped it into his pocket. I'm selling this tomorrow. And you know what's ironic? With that money, I'll start something that actually matters, my own business. Something I'll be proud of. Unlike what you gave me yesterday. Melissa tried to pull herself together, but her expression showed she understood there was no turning back. David walked to the door, opened it, and looked at her one last time with resolve. Our story is over, Melissa. All that's left is the memory of a gift that was never delivered. She walked out slowly, as if each step carried the weight of a sentence. David closed the door behind her and, for the first time in a long while, felt he'd regained control of his own life. The pain was still there, but now mixed with something new, a sense of justice, of clarity. The storm's peak had passed, and even amid the wreckage, he knew there was room to rebuild. What Melissa didn't understand, and perhaps never would, was that some choices are irreversible. And the most effective revenge, in the end, isn't shouting, humiliating, or exposing. It's simply moving forward, letting her own mistakes echo on their own. In the days following the confrontation, each person's life took a different course, as if that night in the hotel hallway had been an unavoidable turning point. Despite the pain, David refused to let the wound become a prison. The next morning, he returned to the jewelry store with the blue box in hand. He handed back the necklace, explained he'd changed his mind, and accepted a full refund. The surprised salesperson tried to convince him to keep the gift for another occasion, but David calmly replied, "There's no other occasion for someone who wasted the first. Now this money will serve a real purpose." With that sum, he took the first step toward a dream he'd always postponed, launching his own IT support business focused on small medical clinics. He already had the technical knowledge, he just needed courage and capital. Ironically, the betrayal that had tried to destroy him became the push he needed. Every keystroke, every signed contract, was his way of proving life could be rebuilt without relying on someone who failed to value his loyalty. While David began building his new life, Melissa faced the weight of consequences. At the office, her image as an exemplary professional crumbled within weeks. Rumors about her affair with Grant spread frighteningly fast, and no matter how much she denied it, the hallway glances said it all, everyone knew. The company's ethics committee launched an internal investigation, and though she wasn't fired, Melissa was transferred to another branch in a much lower role, essentially a demotion. The woman who once strode confidently in heels through office corridors now went unnoticed, almost shrinking into herself. The attention she'd sought from Grant had been replaced by the shadow of a mistake she'd nurtured herself. At home, loneliness became her cruelest companion. David didn't return. There was no reconciliation, no couples therapy. The divorce moved quickly, handled by the lawyer David contacted right after the confrontation. With no children involved, there were no custody battles or visitation disputes, just furniture, bills, and paperwork divided coldly, as if the marriage had become merely an administrative matter. Melissa, who'd believed she controlled everything, realized too late that she'd lost not just a husband, but also the respect of her community and herself. Grant, meanwhile, faced his own downfall. His wife, resolute and unwavering, refused his feeble explanations. She hired a prominent attorney and filed for divorce. She also reported the affair to the company board, attaching evidence and statements from employees who'd long suspected inappropriate conduct. The result was devastating. Grant lost his leadership position, was reassigned to an irrelevant department, and months later quietly exited the company through an internal memo. The man who loved being the center of attention was now remembered only as a cautionary tale. For David, the following months were a quiet process of rebuilding. His small business started with one clinic, then two, and within a year he had a solid client base. He learned to turn heartbreak into discipline, every signed contract was a victory over the past, every client compliment a reminder that others still recognized the value of his dedication. More than that, he rediscovered his peace. There were no more sleepless nights wondering about a phone turned face down, no more cold calls interrupting dinner. There was just him, his business, and a restored sense of dignity. Fate, however, arranged one final encounter, unexpected and symbolic. On a Saturday afternoon, months after the divorce, David parked his car outside a local grocery store. It was a modest car, but it represented his new chapter, bought with earnings from his own work. As he stepped out, he noticed a familiar figure slowly walking toward the store exit. Melissa carried a reusable shopping bag, her expression weary, dressed plainly without her former glow. For a moment, their eyes met. She stopped, surprised, and attempted a fragile smile. "Hi, David," she said softly, almost shyly. He remained composed. "Hi, Melissa." She hesitated, as if searching for words that no longer existed. "You look good." David nodded. "I am. I hope you are too." A brief, heavy silence followed. Melissa seemed to want to say more, perhaps apologize again, maybe try reopening a door already closed. But he gave her no opening. He simply offered a slight wave and continued on his way. Walking into the store, David smiled to himself. There was no anger, no thirst for revenge, only the certainty that he'd moved on. The gift that was never delivered had become an investment in his future. Betrayal, instead of destroying him, had catalyzed his transformation. Melissa, meanwhile, kept walking with her bag in hand, feeling the emptiness of what she'd lost. Grant had vanished from her life, the status she'd chased had crumbled, and the husband she'd once taken for granted had moved forward without looking back. The message was clear, almost etched into the air of that brief encounter: trust is a gift with no substitute. Once broken, no necklace, promotion, or excuse can restore it. David learned that dignity isn't negotiable, and Melissa learned that choices carry steep prices when made at the cost of loyalty. The real surprise wasn't the scandal or the separation, it was that in the end, the greatest revenge came not from shouting or public exposure, but from the quiet strength of a man who chose to value himself, transform pain into achievement, and let others' mistakes echo on their own. And so, each went their separate way, Melissa with the bitter memory of a gift she never received, Grant with the ruin of a tainted career, and David with the peace of someone who discovered that the greatest triumph after betrayal is rising stronger than before. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.